Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome to Sleeping Sunday. We don't do this every day at 8 o'clock. We do it every day at 5 a.m. So if you want to join us live on Zoom, far left-hand corner, that's Mara. She is our senior executive director. I had a new name for you. I had a new name for you. It was a good name. I can't remember what it was now, but I was thinking about rebranding your job in cooler. I can't remember what it is, but you just email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and we discuss the essence of Vedic literature. All yogic literature culminates in this one massive 18,000 verse book called the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we study that every day. And mainly, instead of just studying ancient books, we want to take that ancient wisdom, how to make it applicable to present day life. And great masters have given commentaries for literally millennia. Isn't that hard to believe? For millennia, masters have given commentary. And so Kaustubha and myself, who've studied this, now we give our understanding of it. And today on Saturday we do questions and answers day, and then Sunday's a unique day also. We also do it at 8 o'clock on Sundays, and we have special guests. And tomorrow we have a really incredible guest named Indrajumna Swami. He's like a traveling monk. He's really quite an impressive person if anybody's ever met him. He's sort of like this big beautiful man.
Looks like if Robert Redford became a monk and just had incredible potency and
he probably makes a great salad dressing on top of this as well. Is that Robert Redford who makes the salad dressing? Who am I thinking of?
It's Paul Newman.
Oh, Paul Newman. I always get those.
Your mission of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid here.
Paul Newman makes the salad dressing. Oh, that was so dumb. I can't believe I said that. Anyway, today is questions and answers day, and before we start, we are a community supported podcast. And to give it extra perk for supporting the podcast, and we have thousands of people that this goes out to every day, and we never really thought it was going to be as big as it was, but this little Wisdom of the Sages thing has become a full-time career for us.
It's got wheels.
So we created this way for people to support us. You go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, and it's appreciated and it's needed, but we try to give back. Not just us give back, but all our community, especially these Zoomers. What they do is they donate some of their time, and we built an online yoga school. So for whatever price you pay per month, there's no tiers. There's no like caste system in the tiers. We just we pay some price, and then you're in to the yoga vault. And we have lectures, asana classes, meditation classes, Ayurvedic classes, cooking classes, Ayurvedic cooking classes. It's quite impressive. And coming up, we have and right here we want to introduce Dunya Rico. Now, Dunya is an old friend of mine, but she has her master's degree in counselor education and a specialist degree in couples and family therapy. Could anybody find that useful?
I think a lot of people can find that useful.
Everybody, because it's Kali Yuga and no one can get along with anyone in this crazy age. So Dunya, welcome to our show. We're just going to introduce Dunya before we get into Q&A. Welcome, Dunya.
All right, well, everybody, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you here.
Good to have you here. And Dunya, you live in Florida, right? In a big devotee community in Alachua.
Yeah, I believe it's known as the biggest devotee community in the West. I think I'm right about that. Yeah, it's literally thousands of people kind of spread out between Alachua and Gainesville, Florida.
Do you know Nitai Lieberman, the birthday boy, and little Gopi?
Yes, and they're good friends with my brother Omkar. So happy birthday!
She's also incredibly. If you go to Spotify, she's an incredible singer too. This is a little diversion, but if you like spiritual devotional music, Dunya has an incredible CD out on Spotify. Should they just look up Dhanya, Dunya?
Mm-hmm.
There it is, and you'll see her there.
Super talented, and also kind of married into the Mayapuris too, right? Also, who have our closing music.
Our closing music, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. That's her husband in that band as well. So she's.
Did you appear on that in any way?
I'm on the second album. I do a song with Vish, and I kind of helped with some of the production and backing vocals and that kind of thing. So yeah, I snuck onto that second album.
So Patreon members, this Friday, she'll be giving a class. What's the first one called? The Friday at 2 p.m. on the Patreon class. This is your Sambandha class.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of yoga, Bhakti-yoga relationships in the 21st century, navigating what it's like to be in real world relationships, whether those are couples relationships or it could be work relationships, friendships, kind of any partnership, and how to navigate that in terms of bhakti, obviously, which is going to be our foundation. And then also counseling tools, like real life, practical counseling tools and tips to make sure that we're growing these relationships healthy with, bhakti at the heart of it.
That's awesome and incredibly useful nowadays. So that's Friday at 2 p.m. And then the following Friday at 2. Oh, by the way, she's going to talk for a while, and then there's going to be Q&A. So if you have some good questions in this regard, bring them. And then the following Friday at 2 p.m., the class will be on, I don't have my note right here.
It'll be specifically for couples.
Couples. Okay. What if your couple's not with you, or your couple is in an argument with you, or your couple's not interested in Zoom whatsoever? Then
you're going to rock that Q&A. I think it'd be great for everybody, even people without a partner currently. I think it'd be really informative for single people as well, because you kind of want to know a lot of this information before you get to the bridge to cross it, if that makes sense.
Right, sure.
So I think anybody who's interested just in the topic, I think it'd be great for them to join. And the Q&A section, I really want to leave a lot of room for that, because I find that people's personal experiences and specific questions are actually they have so much information in them. So we could really work with that.
Well,
that's so great.
Thanks for coming on. We've been wanting to get you on like this for a long time right now, and the time is perfectly ripe. And I'm really happy that you're here, and I'm really happy that our Patreon yoga community, yoga school, is going so big right now. We also have a huge 12-step Bhakti recovery group as well, including a men's meeting once a week.
6 meetings per week.
Yeah, it's great. So you are a perfect addition to this, because we're all trying to figure out our heads and navigate our way through the material world. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I hope it's helpful. Yeah.
Bring your notebook to that, I think, right? Take some notes. A lot of good tools.
Sure. Yeah. Although it's all recorded. So even if you miss it, Patreon members, you can go back and you can listen to these things. Right. So this is incredibly valuable stuff. So we're going to dive right into question day now. And Dunya, if you have to go, that's okay. It's not awkward. If you just
I'll stick around. I love this.
If you can stick around, good. And we love having you around. So question day is going to start off on, let's see, I got the red one. So Kaustubha is going to ask me a question first.
You got the color coding down, Raghunath.
I've got it down. It took me a couple months, but red is Raghunath, blue. He had to do it so red it's an onomatopoeia. So the R's
All right,
R, red Raghunath. That's the only way I can keep it straight in my little head.
But then does that mean you read it or you answer it? Oh no.
Don't throw me off now. I really thought I had it down.
All right, here's a question. This is coming from Peyton via Discord thread.
Ready?
Is it wrong to reject association with non-devotees, with non-bhakti yogis? Is it wrong to just reject that association?
Cut him.
I personally like spending time alone because some people can drag me down, but I also want to associate with them, hopefully for their own benefit. Is this?
That's a funny way to put it. It's like, for your benefit, I'm going to hang out with you.
Well, I mean, that's factual.
I get it. I get where he's going with that.
Is this my ego talking to me? Am I really trying? So these are the questions, Raghunath, okay? There's 4 questions here. The first one is it wrong to reject association with non-devotees? Is this my ego talking to me about associating with them and helping them? Am I really trying to help myself and not them? Is there a certain way I need to act around non-devotees?
Great question. And this is like an ongoing question, isn't it? This is like everybody's question, like every week practically. And it's really real. Whenever we try to do any type of self-discipline, just like in our 12-step recovery group, if we're addicted to any type of drug or any type of substance, we need to get away from that substance. If we feel like that substance is taking us out. Now, some people in their own personal recovery, they feel like, oh, I'm drinking too much, I gotta stop, and they just stop. But sometimes people hanging out with that substance at all, they can't have one drink. They have to have 20 drinks, right? So in the same sense, sometimes we are so wrecked by the material world and material association, you have to draw a very big, wide line in the sand. And I think for myself and Kaustubha, that was sort of our game plan. We are going to become monks. We're going to sort of isolate ourselves. I don't even think the people that I was hanging out with were like evil at all. They were, good people. Matter of fact, most of them didn't drink and smoke. They were vegetarians, but I was on a more focused spiritual mission in my life. And I had to draw that line in the sand, and I didn't cross that line. And I felt the exact...
What was the line?
What's that?
What was the line?
The line was like, I'm out of here. I quit my band. I quit my friends. I moved to an ashram. I went to India. That was the line. Okay. It was like a 9,000-mile line.
It was a big, thick line.
You want to come hang out with me? You get on a Delta 747 to Indira Gandhi International Airport. Actually, I don't think that airport even existed then. But anyway, that was the line. Like I'm isolating myself from the world. Now, some people, I'm not going to even say that's bad. Some people need to do that. I needed to do that. And I needed to hang out with people who are very spiritually focused. In any other walk of life, that's considered a noble, cool thing, right? If I'm like very focused on becoming great at the cello, then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take seriously my music lessons. And when all the kids are playing soccer, I'm going to stay in and work on my cello. And that's called a virtuoso. But if you want to become a virtuoso at spiritual life, you're considered a nutcase, a fanatic, a weirdo, a cult member, etc. So I get it. Put the line in the sand. And I will say, though, there is a little type of ego, too, that comes with self-betterment. I can surely attest.
So a little warning you're attaching to this.
There's a little warning. This is the disclaimer. Careful, your ego will get drastically involved. And what happens is you'll think, I will hang out with these old friends of mine for their benefit. Now, most of them think you're crazy. Most of them think you're actually sort of crazy at this point. But there's some people, and maybe a smaller demographic, are going to think, you know what? Why don't I give up everything and become serious about my spiritual life? There'll be some people, and those people will actually be ripe to hear from you. the other people think you're nuts. And the more you like preach to them about your newfound light, they're just going to think you're crazy. They're going to think you've been completely indoctrinated. You know, what happened to the real you? You used to be so much fun.
But didn't some of your friends kind of get into it after you kind of spent time with them again?
Yeah, but most of them didn't.
Okay.
Most of them didn't. Me and Steve Sachi Sutta, we did.
Parmananda.
Parmananda, that was like 3.5, 4 years later. So,
But what's
but-
that in
but I'm just saying, my
eternity?
initial romance with my
Okay.
cutting of spiritual life.
Yeah.
You know, Parmananda thought it was crazy too. Now we're both crazy. You know, it's crazy together. But I think everyone's got to go through the thing. So am I drifting off the answer here? So if you're easily swayed, yeah. Oh, I wrote it, but I wrote it in the same red color. So yeah. So I wrote, if you're easily swayed on your bhakti path, you got to develop some firm roots in what you're learning. And this is, I think, part of the reason, like, you and me went away. We wanted to get really firm roots in why. Am I answering this question, Kaustubha? Or am I
think you
going
did.
off on tangents?
No, you did. Yeah, you did, Raghu. It was very
You say,
good.
am I really trying
answer,
to help
good answer.
myself or not them? Good answer. Okay, I gotta hear the good answer claps. I also want to say there are a lot of people that don't practice bhakti that I get a lot of inspiration from. You know, there's a lot of people in my life presently. Now, me, I don't, 30 years in of practicing this stuff, I don't feel swayed by hanging out with people that aren't devotees. I don't feel like they're going to influence me with their ideas. Because I'm pretty firm in what I believe and who I want to become and what I think a home run in life is. So I don't feel so worried about associating people. I find a lot of different interesting people if I want to learn about gardening or permaculture or, I like the land and outside and animals and trees and plants and things like that. So if I want to learn about stuff like that or martial arts, I feel like I can protect myself from being influenced by them and go in there, learn some great tools and bring it back to my life. I don't think about influencing them like, okay, I'm going to learn permaculture, but really I want to make this guy a Hindu. I don't think like that. I think like, but if you're living a life that's sort of integrated and connected, you will influence people and they'll look up to you. It's nothing that you say. It's just your behavior and your personal connection and your personal joy.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Robert. Thank you for that.
Okay, Kaustubha, I got one for you.
Okay.
This is a good one.
Oh, this is from a good friend of mine. Beautiful person.
Rajabhumi
in Houston. Essential worker.
Essential worker. Rajabhumi from Houston says, I thought he lived in New York. No?
He did. Now he moved to Houston.
Everybody's moving to Texas.
Are they?
Yeah. It's like a massive exodus of New Yorkers and Californians moving to Texas.
All right.
Okay. Seeing the condition of the country right now and the divisiveness, suffering, and lack of love and understanding, I feel it is imperative to vote this year. But sometimes I feel like whatever is meant to happen, whatever God wants to happen, will happen, regardless of my vote. Yeah. Do I really know who's going to be a better president for the economy or the world politics? No, I don't. Maybe some things are more clear, like who will protect the environment and be a more respectful leader. I do not like politics. However, divisiveness and hate really bother me, and I do care for the environment. My question is, 1, do I have a dharmic responsibility to vote? I've heard some say, God's in charge. Better not to get involved in politics. 2, okay, so that's one question.
Mm-hmm.
2, where is the line between free will, my endeavor, and what Krishna has planned? I do feel like, quote, trying the best is so subjective. What if something doesn't work out? How do I know if it was just Krishna's plan or if I didn't try hard enough? When do we say that's enough trying? Maybe it's not meant to be. Krishna doesn't want me to do something, or I need to keep going and keep trying. Now this question, this could be a whole episode in itself, this part 2 of the questions.
Part 2 of the question is the really subtle question.
It's the really subtle thing, and you know what? It's like a real question. It's the serenity. It's the serenity prayer, isn't it? It's
Oh,
like, God,
let
grant me
me.
the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the
Uh-huh.
courage to change the things I can, and the
Yeah.
wisdom to know the difference. This is the big question here.
Oh, that's a great reference there, Raghunath. I wish I would have thought of that, but you brought it out, so it's just as good.
All right.
Um,
What you got?
well, that I think. Tell me that serenity prayer again. The wisdom
God,
to
grant me
understand the
the
difference.
serenity to
Right?
accept the things I cannot change,
Cannot
the
change.
courage to change the things I can,
Yeah.
and the wisdom to know the difference. So, what do I endeavor for? And how do I know when I can't change this? It's out of my circle of influence.
Is that Saint Francis?
No, that's a different one.
Okay. I think that's a perfect answer, and we can move on now because that was really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was by
Because
Bill W.
well, the questions that Vrajabhumi's asking, he's saying, like, how do I know when this is God's plan? And no matter how much I try, it's not going to change the situation, and I should just let go. How do I know when I should or shouldn't be doing something? How do I know when I should keep on trying, or let it be? And the answer to that is really, he says it seems so subjective to just say, well, I'm trying my best. But what my understanding is, and what my observation is, and what I believe through my study, particularly like if you look at Mahabharata, right, is that the way this world is designed is that what is right and what is wrong, or what is the best thing to do in any particular circumstance, may or may not be so explicit, right? We may struggle, even if someone is like saying a Bhakti-yogi with deep faith, with years of experience in the practice, and with total sincerity, they still may disagree about what is the right path or what is the right action. Should I invest my energy in this? Should I not? I remember with my own guru, when he was, I think, about 50 years old or so, or in his late 40s, he went, after dropping out of college, as a teenager or very young man, and then becoming a monk. Then after 30 something years or so of living as a monk, he went back to the university to study and to use that as a platform for his service. But regularly he would question.
He became a PhD or
He became a PhD, yeah, in religious studies.
Indic studies, or
religious studies, and he would turn to me, even like who's his disciple, and who's just just a kid, not and he would say, "What do you think? Am I doing the right thing or I'm not?" Like he would be questioning. Now we see in Mahabharata, you get the wisest character, right? The wisest character in Yudhishthira, right? There no lack of wisdom, no lack of sincerity, no lack of devotion, but regularly struggling with what's right and what's wrong. How should I be engaged right now? So that seems to say to me that this world is not a simple place. It's a nuanced place. And in our actions in this world, that's kind of the field of our practice, lies in the steady endeavor to act in harmony with or be an instrument of the divine will, right? I want to align myself with God's will. Now, my life becomes the endeavor to do that. If it was as simple as just saying it's A, it's A in this circumstance and it's going to be B in that circumstance, we wouldn't necessarily go through the deep digging that we're meant to do, the real heart searching that we're meant to do. And that's going to require humility and sacrifice and patience, and maybe not always knowing, is this right or is this wrong? Is this the best way for me to be engaged, or is there a better way for me to be engaged? But we try, and we inquire from those that we respect, and we meditate on it deeply, and we try to speak to God in the heart. And that's how this world is designed. And there's just no way around that, right? It's complicated, it's nuanced. And in the end, and now he's speaking about voting, and I think we could expand that to like the trying to have a positive influence in the world, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, our efforts to act as an instrument of that divine will, whether it be through voting or whatever else it may be that we're doing, it may or may not create the change that we're hoping for. All we can do is make the effort, and the results aren't up to us. And that's straight Bhagavad Gita philosophy, right? That's what Krishna is asking Arjuna to do. You know, Arjuna, I'm asking you to engage. I'm not holding you responsible for the results. I'm holding you responsible for the effort. And we can make our efforts, and it may create a positive change in the world. It may not. But what we can count on, you know, is, and know for sure, is that if those efforts are sincere, if we're sincerely trying to be instruments of that divine will and putting in all the effort to do that, putting in the study, putting in the soul searching, putting in the prayer, then it'll create a change in us, right? Whether it changes the world or not, it may or may not. We try our best and we let go.
Kaustubha, is it
yes.
safe to say that, forgive me if I butted in, is it safe to say that Krishna, God, higher power, understands your intention? Is it safe to say that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what, you know, Bhagavad Gita is saying, that there's that witness, you know, upadrashta anumantacha. There's the witness within the heart. There's aware of our motives, you know.
It was a great point. The whole Mahabharata is so nuanced.
Yeah.
You really want to take a side, and then you hear the other side, and then
Yeah.
you want to take that side, and you wait. There's another side to this.
Yeah.
Dharma is what does Yudhisthira say? Dharma is the nuances of Dharma are hard to figure out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now going back to the first part of Rajabhumi's question, which had to do with voting. And he's saying, you know, let me go back. You're saying, is it my dharmic responsibility to vote? I've heard some say God is in charge, better not to get involved in politics. My view is this, that this is, I'm going to speak very broad and then I'm going to bring it in. Because this is let's go beyond the subject of just voting. But in other words, how involved should a bhakti yogi be in worldly issues, right? Now, I know some people that feel like you're not even a sincere bhakti yogi unless you're very involved in worldly issues, because our devotion should manifest as compassion in this world. And if you're not actively engaged, you know, that way, and trying to bring about changes in the government and in laws and so, then you're really not a sincere bhakti yogi. And then I know other people on the other end of this thing that are saying, if you're involving yourself in worldly matters at all, then you're just confused, because this world is a temporary place of constant change, and we're meant to transcend it and not become caught up in it and bewildered in it. And I don't agree with either of those points of view. But I do believe that someone can be a sincere spiritual practitioner and be entirely otherworldly, or be very actively engaged in making, you know, social change in this world. And I believe that I think there's a lot of confusion on this point. I believe that different people will engage in different ways. I believe that someone can be very involved in social issues all along with their mind and their heart directed towards God, and therefore, you know, fully engaged in bhakti. And that is what we see happening in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna doesn't say to Arjuna, Arjuna, this battle is going to happen whether or not you're engaged in it. So why bother to engage? You should walk off to the forest and just meditate. No, he says, Arjuna, you know, what is it? Namitta matra sadhya sachin, you know, you become an instrument in the fight, right? This is just after he's actually seen the prophecy in the universal form of everyone that's going to die in that battlefield. And then Krishna says, but Arjuna, you become an instrument in the fight. And in this way, you connect yourself, right? That we engage, our engagement in this world is if it's done in Krishna consciousness, it's connecting us. It's connecting our consciousness with God, and it's a sincere endeavor to act as a messenger of the will of God. Now, on the other end, I've known people that are completely disengaged from social affairs and very deeply spiritually absorbed. And I'll say this, that some of these people, I believe, have had tremendous, just by their not engaging in worldly affairs, they have tremendous spiritual potency that others benefit from. Right? We need people, our community, our society needs a mix of these levels of consciousness. One can inspire the other, and when we get, what's foolish is when we just criticize each other and fight with each other. There's room enough for all of this. So now taking it directly to the point of whether or not Vrajabhumi has we
just wanted a simple answer.
A dharmic responsibility to vote. I mean, I'll just speak for myself, right? It's very easy for me to vote, right? It's not going to create any kind of major distraction in my spiritual life. I feel like I will be able to better serve God if I'm informed about what's happening politically in this country. And I feel like the least I can do is participate, even if it's largely symbolic, right? I live in New York State. We already know, right, because of where New York State's electoral, votes will go. So practically, I know, whether I vote or not, it's not going to. That particular vote is very insignificant. But at the same time, I personally feel a responsibility to participate. And so I will. And I don't think it'll have any detrimental spiritual effect on me. I can be waiting in line and chanting mantras in my head. It's not going to be really, it's not going to distract me. The larger question would be like becoming informed about it. How much will that distract me? But I personally feel a calling to be informed and even allow that information to help me serve better, to help me serve God better. So I say, Vraj Bloom was saying he felt compelled to vote, and I agree with him. I think that's natural, and I don't think you should feel like you're screwing up your spiritual life by doing it. There's a wide swath of so I picked that up from you the other day, right? Swath. Yeah, there's a wide swath of ways to engage. And I will leave it there. All right.
Let's answer a real important question now. Mara, is it swath or swath?
Swath.
Swath. Okay, got you. Let's try to see how many times in this episode we can use the word swath. Okay.
Now, Raghunath, I noticed that when you lean to your right, you sound louder. When you're over here,
you know why? Because my microphone.
I know you got it. I just got to get it.
You like me louder or less?
Yeah, I like it loud. Okay. I want to hear it. I want to hear what you're
right. You know what I'm trying to do? That behind my head, there's some light switches. I'm trying to cover them up with my big bulbous head. You see that? Look. See that?
Well, you're covering it. There's no problem.
I'm covering it, but then if I lean to the left and speak in the mic, then they're there. It looks a little, I don't know.
Yeah, that's why. There's a solution. You move the mic. You move.
I know. Then I can move it on top of the computer. That's awkward in case I have this type of secret message to Mara.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I've got a question for you. This is a serious question.
By the way, if you're listening on Facebook, people, we do this because sometimes people just jump in on Facebook. We do this every day. Email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and you can get on our Srimad Bhagavatam class every day on Zoom and join all these cult members here. We have 101 people here. We're trying to build a cult. We're trying to create. I'm just joking. Are you looking at me like, why is he saying this?
Yeah,
it's a joke. Right. It's a joke. Cults are not funny. Anyway, we have a culture of people who want to listen to this yoga philosophy every day. If you'd like to join us, email us, and Mara will give you the secret codes so you can join us here. Okay, what you got for me?
Okay, this is coming from an anonymous other via email.
Okay, so if you're writing in the question, you can say, "Hey, don't mention my name. Keep it anonymous," and we'll keep it anonymous for you.
We'll honor that. I listen to your show daily and am inspired every day to live a better life.
Nice.
I feel more connected to the morality and the commentaries than to the stories in and of themselves. I'm a
Okay.
believer, but I am never sure what to believe or what to do with that belief. Fair enough?
I'm a believer, but I don't know, but I'm not sure what to believe.
Yeah. I struggle a lot in life, constantly working dead-end jobs. I have not had a romantic relationship in many years.
Not bad.
As I get a little older, friends are hard to make and hard to find. This is so true in the society we live in, right? We're all so disconnected. He said, my past life revolved around drinking and pot. And now, without them, I have much fewer friends.
Yeah.
I've not
I'll
eaten.
be your friend. I'm always looking for some more friends.
I have not eaten meat in many years, and most topics of discussion like sports and movies I find less interesting.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy deep conversations about self, spirit, my practice, and reality. In some ways, I feel renounced for many things. This is nice, actually, you know? This is really nice. I'm appreciating this.
It's nice in a spiritual way.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And yeah.
On your show, you have such amazing guests for interview day, including yourselves, and they have such high achievements. Also, in one episode, Raghunath suggested, now this is where this question is going to start to
What did I suggest?
get interesting. Raghunath suggested that everyone should try being a monk, if only for a few years.
Yeah, that's part of getting the Zoom codes. You're agreeing. You're agreeing. You've checked in the box that you will become a monk for 2 years. You guys on Zoom don't know that yet? That was in the fine print.
Okay.
Jiva, Seth the Welder, come on. We're waiting for you. You're up next week, Seth the Welder.
Okay, we got to get serious now. Here's the
Okay,
question.
sorry.
As someone with no career and is celibate at the moment, this is easy to romanticize, becoming a monk. As a young person, it was the monks of Shaolin, living the Kung Fu dream. Now it's the fantasy of the yogis in their asana poses. Here's the questions.
The Kung Fu dream. Everybody knows what that is, right? Is it a guy thing or is it a girl? Mara, do you know what the Kung Fu dream is?
No, I don't know.
Guys, do you know nod? People on Zoom, every man knows what the Shaolin Kung Fu dream is. You go to China, you live in the Shaolin temple, you become a monk, and you learn how to become deadly.
Yeah, you get trained up.
It's the Kung Fu dream. If you've ever watched any Bruce Lee movie, in your brain, you're thinking, that could be me. Why don't I do that with my life? Why am I sitting here watching cartoons? Okay. Sorry.
Here's the questions. What is life like for the less successful monks? I guess the ones that haven't achieved these big things in life, you know? The temple cleaners or the mediocre pakora chefs.
Mediocre pakora chefs.
Do they specialize in Ayurveda tradition and become lead chefs, or do some always do the same work every day? What is life for the monks who don't greatly achieve? And what does life look like for one who fails at being a monk?
What a good question.
Yeah.
What a good question. You know, Krishna is, when I read this, and it's anonymous, is it a boy or a girl? I can't figure it out. But Krishna is forcing this person to become a very deep thinker.
Mm.
This is the question. What is the metric of success? And sadly, the metric of success in our culture has nothing to do with what we consider success in a bhakti culture. And we've been sold a measurement of success.
You know what? Could I just throw something in? Because I think you really keyed in on something interesting there, but it seems like the questioner is even saying, like, even within the world of monks, there's like a measurement of success, right? Like there's these people doing these huge things that we bring on the show, but then there's the mediocre pakora chef or the temple cleaner.
I think it extends to that as well. It extends to that as well. You know, I was doing a kirtan, a group of our students on pilgrimage. We went to a village school in Rajasthan somewhere. So we're having this, some of you might have been on that trip with me. So we had this big kirtan going, and the head of the school introduced me as like, this is a celebrity, Raghunath. He's a world-renowned musician, and he's going to lead a kirtan for all of you. It was like the most like organized school, unlike any American school. Everybody's sitting, K through 12, sitting there with their hands folded, listening to us lead kirtan. And no one was texting, no one was complaining. Everyone was just like listening there. And then afterwards, the principal of the school came over, and the idea of the school was for poor children. It was I can't remember what you call that. It's a type of school that they extend the reach to the poor, and people come from all over for education, and they give education for practically nothing. It wasn't a regular public school. But anyway, the principal said to me, I want you to meet a boy. He's a senior this year. He's graduating this year. And he's from a very poor family. He travels over 2 miles every day. He even has to take a ferry, like one of those guys in a boat across a river to get to the school, and from childhood, he's been our best student. We've had him from kindergarten. He's been the best. He's given up. He's given everything. He's incredible at English, at Punjabi, at Hindi. He's a great musician. He helps all the younger students. He is athletic. You are so successful, Raghunath. Can you explain to him how he can become successful like you? And then immediately I was really crestfallen. I started to feel like, sometimes in countries like India, you can't just will yourself to a different status in life. They don't have that, where I'm not completely sure. I'm not know everything about the politics of India, but sometimes just being born into a particular family and situation is an exit strategy to material success. So even if he made all the right choices his entire life, had a great attitude, he still might hit a low ceiling of what we would consider success. And for the first time in my life, perhaps, I felt like, cat's got my tongue. Like I have nothing to say. How is this person going to be successful in the way that he thinks he's thinking of success in a certain way? And I just sort of became dull-headed. I was like, how do I answer this question? This guy could never, ever perhaps have the type of success and to walk down a red carpet and get, people like paparazzi around him. And I got a little depressed, and I closed my eyes and I just said a prayer to Guru. Give me some intelligent answer here. And the intelligent answer that came out was, success is a heart filled with devotion. And I think the biggest gift I ever got was becoming materially successful at a young age. I was famous when I was 19 or 20. And because of that fame, it made me realize immediately that fame is not success. And some people who want to be famous may never become famous, and they'll never get that realization. But that fame was not success. And it drove me deeper into my spiritual life, which I think Krishna is forcing this questioner to do. Like, what is success in the material, in the world? Is it to accumulate stuff? Is it to we will find that the people that get the most validation in life oftentimes are plagued or riddled with pain, because they don't know how to manage that success or use that success in a way that connects them with their soul. Their lives become complicated. They can't go out in public sometimes. They get people for no good reason who stalk them, who hate them, who want to kill them, right? So what is success anyway in the material world? Is it just stuff, collections of stuff? And I understand it, but I've met incredible people with nothing. And Kaustubha, I'm sure you can, like right off the top of your head, give me 7 people with nothing that are like incredibly connected, incredibly deep, incredibly blissful. And that is sort of the gift that Bhakti-yoga gave me, is to see that there's a new metric for success in the material world. And you might not even make a great pakora, but your intention and your love going into that pakora, and that desire to offer those pakoras with love. Is that what he said? A pakora?
Mediocre pakora chef.
Yeah. And to see the joy in offering that pakora to someone else, that's a real joy. That's a real joy. I mean, oftentimes you talk to a father or mother and you say, what's your real joy in life? And the person could have tons of stuff, but they'll say, my connection with my family, making dinner. I know when I make dinner for my kids, I feel good about it. It's like a real, and they have, thanks so much. I appreciate that so much.
Super important.
Yeah, super important is those loving relationships. And I think this has to be understood of the real metric of success, the real metric of blessings. And there's the famous story of Lord Chaitanya, and someone, bless me, give me blessings. And I don't know if I'm quoting this right, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I bless that your material life become a failure. Did I just make that up?
I'm not sure.
You're like, maybe. Maybe. Can I just create things that Lord Chaitanya said?
The Chaitanya Bhagavat. Raghunath, this reminds me of my wife when she was a Montessori teacher. She's a Montessori teacher, and kind of, in Manhattan, being a Montessori teacher can be like, kind of like, you're dealing with some high level energy,
yeah,
like the parents and all that. She was like a great Montessori teacher. The kids loved her, the parents loved her, the teachers loved her. She's kind of like, Julie Andrews in that place or something like that, right? She's like,
your wife is great, Julie Andrews.
Bright and, just happy and like, winning everyone's heart and everything like that. And every year they would do a write-up for the teachers, and then you would go in with the management and they would discuss, like their evaluation of you. And the person that was evaluating her said, you are just doing great at everything, but there's just like one thing, that we had to check you off as like, as like a, I don't know if a problem, but like a kind of like a stain on her record or something like that, some kind of demerit in a sense.
What?
And it said that you're not ambitious enough to climb the ladder in this institution. So like you're a teacher now, you should be endeavoring to become like a this or a that,
principal, a counselor.
Yeah. And she was like, but that's not what I want to do. Like I'm happy doing what I do right now. So why isn't that enough? Like why, why not let it, why think that a person that's in a higher level of management is more successful, that they're making a greater contribution necessarily than someone that's doing on another level? And I think that what you're bringing up really speaks well to the question. It's like, whether you're, like Indra Swami, we're going to have him on, and he's a monk that's just like travels the world and influences thousands of people directly and puts on huge programs, even in stadiums. And, it's like, it's amazing what this man has done. But it doesn't mean that the person that's living a very simple life and that doesn't necessarily have, whether it's the knowledge or the charisma or the ability in whatever, it doesn't mean that their contribution isn't just as appreciated by God, just as beautiful and effective and in its own little way,
It's like the little ant that was moving the grain of sand to help build the bridge to Lanka.
Spider.
Yeah, and the monkeys were saying, "What are you gonna do?" It's a spider.
Yeah, sometimes they say squirrel.
What are you gonna do building with a little grain of sand? We're never going to get Ram across this bridge and the monkeys across this bridge. And Ram said, "Every time you just give 100%. That's 100%.
That's right.
You give 100%.
He's giving 100%. You're giving 100%. So it's equal."
And some practical tools for making friends, by the way, is like, first of all, you want friends with like-minded people. That's normal. That's why we have a community. What we have here on Wisdom of the Sages is a bona fide community of people that I want to get to know. Why? Because I think there are people who want to raise the bar in the quality of their existence, the quality of their life. And that's why we have, it's the same thing that exists in the material realm, but it's a spiritual chat board. It's a spiritual, retreat we're doing, a spiritual pilgrimage. It's focused more on spirit and less on, politics, sports, things of the material realm. The main thing is we try to keep the main thing.
Main thing. Okay.
That's the main thing.
Okay.
Okay, Kaustubha, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This is from our good friend Damodar Swarup from Tucson, who's
Gonna be seeing him next
live on the
weekend.
show.
Yeah.
We're going to see him next weekend at the Wisdom of the Sages retreat.
That's right.
Where you can meet lots of friends. There's a lot of cool
Okay.
people there. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of our Zoomies and others out there. Every day I'm thankful for your presence in my life. Thank you both for making Bhakti wisdom relatable, dynamic, relevant, and profound. I have a question perhaps you both could answer. I facilitate some intro to Bhakti meetups with our communities along with the East Coast and Arizona. We use the great book, Journey Within by Radhanath Swami, that is a great book, as our reading guide. We were discussing a part of the book that outlines the mood of our spiritual communities in Bhakti, that we are the servant of the servant, that we are humble in our actions and attitudes towards others, we are grateful, and that we don't criticize. This is the practices section of the book under practice 2. So he's giving us an explicit part of this book.
Yeah.
Radhanath Maharaj has such a clear and powerful way in which he describes these virtues of the Bhakta in community.
Okay, so those were, again, servant of the servant, humble in our actions and attitudes towards others, grateful, and not criticizing.
Yeah, those are big.
Virtues.
Appreciating these values, one of our students did have a great question. For some populations, as she was speaking, specifically for females, the idea of always being humble and in a servant attitude could possibly bring up negative samskaras of sexism within our society, that women have been told in some possibly oppressive or unhealthy ways to always be humble, never critical, and as a servant to a man's world. Good point. Since you are expert at getting to the essence and stating profound moods of bhakti for our complex modern world, how would you approach teaching these transformative spiritual values in such a way that the possible negative material manifestations of them found in society don't block out or turn people away from their deeper spiritual worth? I hope this question makes sense. I'm grateful for your time in answering it.
Okay.
What a beautiful way to, first of all, what a beautiful way to ask a question, you know?
Yeah.
He's such a sweet, cultured gentleman.
He is.
Okay.
And so if I'm understanding this question correctly, the question is, how do we present these very noble virtues in a world where people are scarred? And those very virtues may seem like weaknesses, or even like potentialities for abuse, right? And so I think we can try to explain it like this, that what Radhanath Swami is expressing in that book is a vision for a spiritual community. And the idea is that a spiritual community should be a community that uplifts everyone, that brings out the best in everyone. Now, there's two ways that one could look at a community. One is that the individual is the center. It's hardly a community when it's like that, really, right? But like that's the way a lot of our world operates. Is it's like a lot of individuals working for their own individual betterment. And then there's another way of looking at a community, that a community is centered around a higher principle, that all the individuals are serving that principle. Right? And so that's what he's describing here. He's saying that we can have a happier life, and we can all individually move towards the higher goals in life if we work together as a community. And an important principle in that community, what facilitates that community working, and what allows every individual in that community to move away from the illusion that I'm the center and towards the reality that we're all centered around one divine source, is embracing the idea that happiness is found through, and my true nature is found through service, right? That reinforcing this idea that happiness is not found through others serving me. Happiness is not found through centering the world around me, but happiness is found when I'm serving the center. And if I embrace that idea, it means it's not just the women are serving the men, right? It means that everyone sees themselves as servant of everyone. It means the wife sees herself as servant to the husband, but the husband sees himself as servant to the wife. The parents not only think the children are meant to serve them, but they think we're serving the children. Even the guru and the disciple, the disciple naturally thinks of themselves as a servant of the guru, but the guru thinks of themselves as a servant of the disciple. Right? I got a phone call yesterday from Raghunath Swami.
Aw.
What's that? What was that?
It's jealousy. How about that?
Okay.
Real human emotion. Can't I feel?
Can I express? So when he calls me up, and you know how he speaks like this, he calls up and, Kaustubha, how can I serve you? It's like, Maharaj, I want to serve you. It's like, but even though he's such a superior of mine in every way, in the level of his consciousness and all his actions, and by age, by accomplishment, by knowledge and wisdom, by behavior, in every way.
Right.
But he conceives of himself essentially at the core. What am I? I am a servant. So if I'm talking to Kaustubha or Raghunath or Mara or anyone on the phone, he's thinking, how can I serve you? And that's the consciousness that's deeply spiritual. That's the consciousness that opens up the doors to our spiritual advancement, and really opens up the world, our world, to happiness. So now but in our scarred, warped world, when we hear about these virtues, servant of the servant, humble in our actions and attitudes towards others, always grateful, don't criticize. Because we've gone through trauma, because we live in a world of abuse, those very ideas which are so important to our spiritual development, red flags go up, and that's totally understandable. We just need to understand it in the right context. Humility doesn't mean always acting meek and being prone to exploitation. It means the freedom from the illusion that the world should be revolving around me.
Ooh, I like that.
Right?
I like
That's
that.
humility, right? Everything isn't meant just...
Say that again, Prabhu. Say that again. That was a good one.
Humility doesn't mean acting meek and being prone to exploitation. It means the freedom from the illusion that the world should be revolving around me. Okay. Not criticizing doesn't mean not correcting injustices. It means not wasting time and energy in complaining and dwelling on the faults of others. And whether those faults are real or imagined, because let's face it, our society is absorbed in dwelling on the faults of others. And a lot of times there's even no fault there. Right. So, in a healthy community, there should be efficient channels for dealing with injustices. And so that there's no need for dwelling on the so-called faults of others. A healthy spiritual society isn't a society of exploitation. It's a society where injustices can be dealt with efficiently, but especially hopefully they'll be greatly minimized, because everyone has embraced this concept that the world's not meant to be revolving around me. That in itself, if our spiritual leaders and teachers can convey that understanding well, and if that understanding can take root and grow and flourish in the spiritual community, then the potential for exploitation should be greatly reduced. And still there should be healthy channels for dealing with any kind of exploitation or injustice. And I'll just end on this point, and is that perhaps the saddest consequence of injustice or abuse is when the trauma extends past the incidents themselves and it robs the victim of their hope and their optimism. Right?
Robs them of their hope. That is well said.
Yeah.
That we perpetuate it further.
Then you are allowing your abuser to continue the abuse. The assault. So there are people that are more trained in dealing with trauma than I am. I'm not trained in it at all.
You got a tattoo in there somewhere. That's a tattoo. That's you got to chop that down to like a little sutra, and then the tattoo, the neck tattoo, the back piece. Mara's been thinking about.
It could be.
That could be.
But just to get, in other words, so getting back to Dhamma Swarupa's original question, I totally get it. That if a woman says, you're telling me that I need to be meek and humble in all my dealings and to never criticize, but I've been the victim of exploitation, and I could see that continuing in that if I continue it that way. This is the thing. Don't allow a person's mistreatment to rob you of your optimism, your hope to find something better, right? Then the consequences of it just grow and extend. We can't lose our optimism, and we can't lose our what's the word I'm looking for, when we like the opposite of cynicism, when we have like that faith that like good things can come. Idealism. We can't lose our idealism, right? Idealism is going to be real important in spiritual life. Not that we lose touch with reality. We deal with reality, but we should be idealistic. But that key again, is that you can actually have a powerful spiritual community where everyone's being uplifted when they together we can meditate on, discuss, contemplate, and feel the benefit of every individual feeling, I am the servant. Okay.
That was good.
Thank you, Raghu. Are we out of time? Should we do one more for you, or why don't we do one more?
Whatever you like. Let's do one more.
I've got another thing I have to do, so I can't stay on for too long today, but why don't we do one more? I'll read you a question. Ready?
You mean your whole life isn't dedicated to this live show?
Sorry.
Okay.
Something I got to do. Okay, one more question. And this is coming from a friend in Colorado. We got a lot of great people out there in Colorado.
Sandesh, I like this guy. He's a skateboard. What's his handle on Instagram?
Yeah, it's a skate monk or something like that.
Or the skate monk.
Skate monk.
Uddhava Sandesh. He's the one that makes the funny videos of me. The Raghunath. What is it? What are they called?
Oh, the sounds, ecstatic noises.
Ecstatic noises.
What's that? Ecstatic.
Raghunath's ecstatic noises.
Raghunath's ecstatic noises. This is so from Uddhava Sandesh in Colorado. He says, in your experience, and this is a common one, it's coming up again, but everyone is a little different nuance the way they ask it. In your experience, what is the best way to handle family members that are highly inimical to one's bhakti practice? Most of my family is either practicing bhakti or at least supportive of my doing so. But one member in particular is actively against it. Actively. Anytime I try to talk to them, they just say I'm in a cult.
Yeah.
And they aren't willing, and they are not willing to hear me out.
Yeah.
How can we have a relationship with someone who doesn't want to hear what we're doing? Is the best route just to love them from a distance, or to work on the relationship despite their animosity? Help us understand this.
What's the best way to handle family members that are highly inimical to one's bhakti practice? You can't have a relationship with them. I'll say it very simply. You can't have a relationship with them. I find that time smooths rough edges.
Time.
That could be a tattoo. Not super profound. Time smooths rough edges. And when they realize you're not crazy, that you're actually happy, like sometimes with parents, they just want to see that you're going to get married. It's as simple as that. They're like, my son became a monk. There go my grandchildren. Happens a lot. Sometimes parents, I know for a lot of our friends that were monks, once they got married, their parents were like completely relieved. Once they had a child, their parents were like, oh, thank God. And now we have a relationship again. But sometimes in the name of like looking out for you, you're almost challenging their life. Like you're challenging I know coming home, I have a big Italian family. And the first time I came home and I said, I'm not eating any of this meat on Thanksgiving. That challenged everything they believed in. And
They felt judged, probably.
Well, they felt I didn't judge them. Tell you, I'm just not going to eat it. I become a vegetarian. I become thoughtful. What's going on? This was like in 1985 or something. But my father. We grew up in a very. We never had money, and they grew up during the Depression. So to put meat on the table was a sign of, look, we've worked hard. We've covered all our bases. We've saved our money. We got it together, and now I can provide meat for my children.
Right.
And to say, I'm not going to eat this meat, that like sort of threatened who they were and their identity and their values and things like that. So oftentimes they do care about you, or they're worried about you. But a lot of times it's also making them rethink their choices. So, and a lot of times it will manifest in anger, or in they'll cut you off, or they'll demonize you sometimes, or they'll just say, you've lost your mind, you've been indoctrinated. And at that point, you can't really do anything. It's a shutdown for relationship. But like I said, like the time sort of smooths out the rough edges. And sometimes, I don't know how Indians deal with this, who are really tight with their families, and some of you are very tight with your families. I felt like at a young age I was sort of like mission driven, not family driven or family unit driven. I was sort of mission driven. That's just the way my makeup was. So for me, it was like, well, I got to do what I have to do. This is important. This is my offering to the world, and I'm just going to do it. And if you want to jump on board, you can jump on board. And if you think I'm nuts, well, I love you, but I'm just going to go on with my mission. But now I relate to my family members, and the God honest truth is I'm not very close to my family, but I respect them, and I think they're good people, and I love my mother, but yeah, sometimes they'll never get you, and sometimes they'll be like, you know what? I've also had like people in my life that would be like, you know what, or brothers or sisters in my life, siblings that have said, your path isn't for me, but I think it's really cool what you've done. I think it's really cool. So sometimes people, truthfully, they just want to see that you're happy, that you're thoughtful, that you're connected. You don't have to write them off, but you might not at this point, because you might not want to let them you may not try, it might not happen. That connection, that old friendship may not be there yet. Depending on the people. Uddhava Sandesh told me his brother and his mother, his brother's into it and his mother's into it. So, it's a sort of a unique path. It's just like when you have any dietary restriction, it makes it hard to go out to dinner with everybody. I can't eat this, I can't eat that. I'm allergic to peanuts, whatever it is. Any dietary restriction is going to upset the balance. When there's no restrictions and you let anything in, we do that forever. But once you start putting certain restrictions in your life, that's understandable. It's understandable. So it may not ever work out smoothly. I don't know if that helped. I don't know if this helped your answer, Uddhava, but
time may be the answer.
Hey, time is going to be the answer, and just being gentle and loving with people too. Well, I think that's it for the show today.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good show, and hold on a second.
What are you doing now?
Drop my music maker.
Okay.
Oh God. Kaustubha?
Yeah.
I love you.
Oh, Raghunath, sharing that tender message.
Danya, thanks for joining us. And I appreciate it. We're looking forward to your class at 2 p.m. on Friday for Patreon members. If you joined us late on Facebook, we do this every day. Contact Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and you can get the magical codes to enter into our chambers. And you can join us here Monday through Friday at 5 a.m., or you can listen to any place you get podcasts, and you can listen to back episodes. You can binge listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam with us every day. Thanks for everybody who is part of this. Thanks for all our Zoomers here. We had, I think, almost 100 people today. And they were very active in the chat board, and they were giving lots of feedback. Thank you. It makes it more fun and engaging. If you want to share your spiritual journey with us, we appreciate it. We'd like to hear from you. You can write us an email, or even better yet, go to Apple Podcasts and write a review and tell us your story. We're all interested in your story. We find our own story in your journey home. Thanks, everybody. This is the fun part. Seems a little peculiar, but this is one of the funner parts of my day. I start to dance.